The morning light spilled across the city like a tired sigh. Garbage trucks groaned awake on empty streets, and somewhere behind tall glass windows, a little girl stared out without blinking. Lily Hart had never spoken a word in her 7 years of life. Doctors called it selective mutism. Her father, Michael Hart, one of the wealthiest men in the city, called it his deepest fear. Every sound in their mansion echoed too loudly because Lily's voice was missing. Outside, far below their world of money and silence, Ethan Cole lifted a trash bin with numb hands, unaware that this ordinary morning was about to bend two broken lives toward each other. Before we go any further, I have to ask, where are you watching this from today? Somewhere busy, somewhere quiet, somewhere you call home. Drop your city or country in the comments. It still amazes me how one story can travel so far and bring strangers together. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow and checked his watch. Late again. His son's school bell would ring in 20 minutes, and he still had 3 blocks to finish. Being a single dad wasn't something he planned. It arrived suddenly, like a storm, the year his wife passed away from a fast, cruel illness. Since then, life became a series of early mornings, cheap dinners, and apologies whispered into the dark. But Ethan never complained. He couldn't afford to. Across town, Michael Hart stood in his private kitchen, coffee untouched. His suit was perfect, his posture sharp, but his eyes followed Lily as she traced patterns on the marble floor with her socked feet. Therapists had come and gone. Schools tried and failed. Nothing broke the wall around his daughter's silence. "Ready for school?" he asked gently. Lily nodded once. No words. Never words. The driver pulled up. Lily took her bag and paused at the door, staring out at the street, as if listening to something no one else could hear. That was the first day she noticed Ethan. The garbage truck stopped below the mansion gates. Ethan jumped down, humming softly without realizing it. It was an old tune his wife used to sing. He tossed bags into the truck, laughing when one split open and sent orange peels rolling across the pavement. Lily pressed her hand to glass. Every morning after that, she waited. Michael noticed it by accident. One morning, Lily refused breakfast, refused her shoes, until the rumble of the truck echoed outside. She ran to the window, eyes alive in a way he hadn't seen before. "What are you looking at?" he asked. She pointed. Michael frowned. A garbage man? Days turned into weeks. Lily never missed the sound of that truck. She would sit by the window, silent, watching Ethan wave at her without knowing who she was. Sometimes he'd make a silly face. Sometimes he'd bow dramatically after lifting a bin, like it was a stage performance. One morning, rain poured hard. Ethan slipped on wet pavement and scraped his arm. He laughed it off, but Lily flinched. Her hands clenched tight, her eyes filled with something close to panic. Michael saw it all. That night, Michael lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He had spent millions trying to fix what no money could touch. And yet, his daughter reacted more to a stranger in orange gloves than to any doctor. The next morning, Michael waited outside. Ethan froze when he saw the man in the tailored suit by the gate. "Is there a problem, sir?" Ethan asked, already bracing for complaints. Michael hesitated. "No, I just wanted to say my daughter likes watching you work." Ethan blinked, then smiled, soft and awkward. "Well, I guess that's a first." From that day on, Ethan made it his mission to make Lily smile. He brought bubbles. He juggled apples. He waved like she was the most important audience in the world. One afternoon, Lily did something she'd never done before. She laughed. It was silent, just shaking shoulders and bright eyes. But Michael dropped his phone when he saw it. If you were there watching that moment, what would you have felt? Would your heart have raced too? Tell me honestly in the comments. And if this touched something inside you, tap like, just to say you felt it. Michael invited Ethan inside the gates one day, just to say thank you. Ethan refused at first. "I'm just doing my job." But Michael insisted. And that was how two men from opposite worlds sat across from each other at a small table, sipping coffee neither of them really wanted. "My daughter hasn't spoken since she was born," Michael said quietly. Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. Then he leaned forward. "Maybe she doesn't need fixing. Maybe she just needs someone who doesn't expect anything from her. Michael swallowed hard. Outside, Lily stood by the window, watching Ethan with a calm she'd never known before. Something inside her stirred. Not words yet, but something close. And deep inside Ethan, a strange feeling settled in his chest. As if this job, this moment, was only the beginning. He had no idea how much pain, truth, and healing still waited ahead for all of them. Ethan didn't talk much after that first invitation. He returned to work the next morning like nothing had changed, but something had. The way Lily watched him wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was recognition, as if she knew him, as if in her quiet world, he had become familiar in a way few ever had. Michael began timing his mornings around the garbage truck, without admitting it to himself. Meetings shifted, calls waited. For 10 minutes each day, he stood behind Lily, watching her small fingers curl around the window frame as Ethan arrived. One morning, Ethan brought his son Noah with him. Noah was 9, thin, sharp-eyed, and too serious for his age. His school had a half-day, and Ethan couldn't afford childcare. Noah sat on the curb with a backpack between his knees, watching his dad work. Lily noticed him immediately. 2 children, one silent, one quiet for different reasons. Ethan caught Lily's gaze and waved her closer to the window. Then he pointed to Noah and made a silly thumbs-up gesture. Noah hesitated, then waved too. Lily lifted her hand. Just a little. Michael's breath caught. Later that day, Michael did something he'd avoided for years. He canceled his afternoon meetings and took Lily to the park. Not the private garden behind their house, but a public one. Children shouted. Dogs barked. Life moved without permission. Lily stayed close, overwhelmed but curious. Then she saw Noah again, kicking a ball by himself. Ethan sat on a bench nearby, scrolling through his phone. Lily stopped walking. She wants to go over, Michael realized aloud, stunned by his own certainty. They approached slowly. Ethan stood immediately. Sir, it's okay, Michael said. She wanted to say hello. Ethan smiled down at Lily and crouched to her level. Hey there. Silence. Noah rolled the ball toward her gently. It stopped inches from her shoes. Lily stared at it for a long moment, then nudged it back. No words, but connection. They sat together for nearly an hour. No pressure. No expectations. Just shared space. Ethan told Noah a story about his mom, how she used to raise grocery carts in empty parking lots. Noah laughed. Lily listened. Michael watched from a distance, something heavy loosening in his chest. That evening, Michael pulled out an old photo album. Lily crawled into his lap as he flipped pages she'd never cared about before. Her mother's smile. Their first house. A time when hope felt simpler. She would have loved you, Michael whispered. Lily leaned her head. Have you ever had someone step into your life when you didn't even know you needed them? Write yes if you have, and if you feel like it, tell me their name. Sometimes gratitude deserves to be spoken, even here. Days passed, then weeks. Ethan and Noah became part of Lily's routine, slowly, gently. She still didn't speak, but she listened, she watched, she remembered. Then one afternoon, everything cracked. Michael arrived home early to find Lily curled up on her bed, shaking. Her teacher had called. There had been a substitute that day. A raised voice. A slammed door. Lily hadn't cried, but she'd folded inward like a broken wing. Michael held her as she trembled. That night, he called Ethan. I don't know why I'm calling you, Michael admitted. Ethan didn't hesitate. Do you want to come by? When Ethan arrived, Lily didn't run. She didn't hide. She walked to the doorway and stood there, waiting. Ethan knelt. Hey, rough day. Lily stared at him. Her lips parted slightly, then closed again. It was the closest she'd ever come. Ethan didn't push. He simply sat with her on the floor, back against the wall. Noah joined them. They drew pictures. No questions. No fixing. Just presence. Later, after Lily fell asleep, Michael stood in the hallway, eyes red. I don't understand it, he said. I gave her everything. Ethan nodded slowly. Sometimes kids don't need everything. They just need someone who stays. Michael looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. The garbage man wasn't just kind. He was steady, but life has a way of testing even the steadiest hearts. Because 2 days later, Ethan didn't show up. No truck, no wave. Lily waited by the window long after the street went quiet. Michael called the sanitation department. "Ethan Cole," the woman said. "I'm sorry, sir. He was suspended this morning." Michael's hand tightened around the phone. For what reason? An incident. He'll be notified. Lily tugged at Michael's sleeve, eyes wide, confused. Michael didn't know it yet, but whatever had happened to Ethan was about to force Lily into a moment that would change everything. The next morning felt wrong before it even began. Lily woke before the sun, patted down the hallway, and took her usual place by the window. The street was empty. No rumble, no orange flash, no familiar figure hopping down from the truck. She waited. Michael stood behind her with his phone pressed to his ear, listening to a manager repeat policy in a flat, rehearsed voice. Something about protocol. Something about an accusation. Nothing concrete. Nothing kind. When he hung up, Lily turned slowly, her eyes asking a question she couldn't say. "He'll be back," Michael told her, though his voice lacked certainty. But Ethan wasn't back the next day either. At Ethan's small apartment, Noah sat at the kitchen table, pushing cereal around his bowl. "Are you in trouble?" he asked quietly. Ethan forced a smile. "Just a misunderstanding, buddy." The truth was uglier. A resident on one of his routes had accused him of damaging property. A dented gate. No proof. No witnesses. Just a complaint, and a suspension without pay while it was reviewed. For Ethan, that meant one thing: rent panic. He lay awake that night staring at the ceiling fan, counting rotations like he used to count heartbeats in the hospital when his wife was sick. He hadn't told Michael. Pride still had its grip on him. Across town, Lily stopped eating breakfast. She barely touched her toys. At school, she sat frozen, eyes glued to the clock. The teacher called Michael again. "She won't engage at all today," she said gently. "It's like she's waiting for something." Michael left work early. At home, Lily sat on the floor with her crayons, drawing the same picture over and over. A stick figure in orange, a smaller one beside him. Michael crouched. "Do you miss him?" Lily nodded once. Hard. Michael exhaled slowly. Then he made a decision that surprised even himself. He drove. Ethan opened the door cautiously, shock flickering across his face when he saw who stood there. "Sir." "Michael," he corrected. "Please." Inside, the apartment was small but warm. Shoes by the door. A photo of Ethan's late wife taped to the fridge. Noah stood awkwardly in the hallway, unsure whether to speak. Michael didn't waste time. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan shrugged. "Didn't think it was your problem." Michael shook his head. "It became my problem the moment my daughter started smiling again." Ethan looked away, jaw tight. They talked for an hour. About life. About loss. About how easily good people fall through cracks. When Michael left, he slipped an envelope onto the table. Ethan pushed it back immediately. "I can't take that." "It's not charity," Michael said. "It's gratitude." Ethan didn't open the envelope. Not yet. That evening, Michael brought Lily with him. She stood in the doorway of Ethan's apartment, hands clasped tight. Ethan knelt like always. "Hey," he said softly. Lily took a step forward. Then another. She reached out and touched the sleeve. Just barely. Ethan felt it like electricity. They sat together on the floor again. Noah showed Lily how to fold paper airplanes. One crashed into the wall. Noah laughed. Lily's mouth curved, small but real. Michael watched, heart aching with something close to fear, because now he understood. Ethan wasn't just a comfort. He was a bridge. And bridges can break. Now it's your turn to pause for just a moment. Think about one small good thing you've done recently. Something quiet, something kind. Share it in the comments so others remember that goodness still exists. You never know whose heart your words might reach tonight. Days passed. The investigation dragged on. Ethan picked up odd jobs. Lily asked to visit every evening. not with words, but with her coat, her shoes, her insistence. Then the call came. Ethan stood in the kitchen when his phone buzzed. "Mr. Cole," the voice said, "the complaint has been dismissed. You're cleared to return to work." Ethan closed his eyes, relief washing through him. "Thank you." The next morning, the truck returned to the street below Lily's window. She saw it first. Her breath caught. Her hands flew to the glass. The rumble, the color, the familiar shape. It was all there. Ethan jumped down, waving exaggeratedly like always. Lily ran. Michael barely had time to react before she was out the front door, racing down the steps, her small legs carrying her faster than he'd ever seen. "Lily," he called. She didn't stop. Ethan turned just in time to see her throw herself into his arms. The street went silent. Ethan froze, then wrapped his arms around her instinctively, afraid to breathe. Michael reached them, heart pounding. "Lily, are you—" And then it happened, very softly, barely louder than the wind. Then, the sound wasn't perfect. It trembled, but it was real. The world tilted. Ethan pulled back slowly, eyes wide, tears already spilling. Michael dropped to his knees, hands shaking. Lily looked between them, frightened now, unsure she'd done something wrong. Michael cupped her face. "No, sweetheart," he whispered, breaking. "You did something beautiful." Lily's voice had finally found its way out. But neither man realized yet that this miracle would soon be tested by a truth neither of them was ready to face. The sound of Lily's voice didn't fade the way echoes usually do. It stayed, hovering in the air, pressing into memory, changing the shape of everything it touched. Michael couldn't stop replaying it in his head on the drive home. Ethan couldn't either. Even Lily seemed startled by what had escaped her lips, as if she'd opened a door she wasn't sure she could close again. That night, Lily slept curled against her father's chest, her breathing steady, her face peaceful in a way Michael had never known. He stayed awake, staring into the dark, afraid that if he blinked, the miracle would slip away. The next day, specialists were called. Therapists returned with cautious excitement. Words like breakthrough and rare response floated around the room. Lily said nothing. She clung to Michael's sleeve, eyes tracking the door. She may not speak again for a while. One therapist warned gently, "This doesn't mean she's cured." Michael nodded. He didn't care about cured. He cared about Lily. And Lily cared about Ethan. When the garbage truck arrived the following morning, Lily didn't run this time. She walked, slowly, deliberately. Michael followed, heart pounding with each step. Ethan jumped down, suddenly unsure of himself. "Hey!" he said softly, afraid of breaking something fragile. Lily looked up at him. Her lips moved. No sound came. Ethan smiled anyway. "That's okay." She relaxed instantly. From then on, a new rhythm formed. Lily spoke rarely, sometimes just a whisper, sometimes only a breath of sound, but she wasn't frozen anymore. At school, she began answering questions by nodding, then by pointing, then by writing. At home, she hummed while coloring. And always, she waited for Ethan. Michael invited Ethan and Noah to dinner one evening. A simple meal. No suits. No staff. Just 4 people at a table far too big for them. Noah stared at the chandelier in awe. "This place is huge." Ethan shot him a look. "Manners." Michael smiled. "He's not wrong." They ate. They laughed. Lily sat between Ethan and Michael, comfortable, safe. Then Michael did something unexpected. He poured 2 glasses of wine and spoke quietly. "I need to tell you something." Ethan listened. "My wife, Lily's mother," Michael began, voice tight. "She was just like you, warm, ordinary, kind. She believed people mattered more than money." Ethan nodded slowly. "When she died," Michael continued, "I buried myself in work. I thought if I built enough, bought enough, fixed enough, the pain would stop. It didn't. And Lily," his voice broke. She stopped trying to speak to a man who never really listened. Ethan felt the weight of those words settle between them. "You gave her something I couldn't," Michael said. "Presence." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't do anything special. That's exactly it, Michael replied. Later that night, as Ethan and Noah prepared to leave, Lily tugged on Ethan's jacket. He knelt instinctively. She leaned close to his ear. Thank you. 2 words. Clear. Soft. Perfect. Ethan cried the entire drive home. If that moment hit you in the chest the way it hit mine, leave a red heart in the comments. Sometimes a single symbol says everything our hearts are struggling to hold. But life rarely allows joy to exist without testing it. The test came quietly. Michael received an email from a prestigious boarding school specializing in children with selective mutism. The best, the safest, the most advanced care money could buy. 6 months abroad. Michael stared at the screen for a long time. That evening, he brought it up carefully. It could help you, he told Lily, keeping his voice light. New friends, new teachers. Lily listened. Then she shook her head. Her grip tightened on Ethan's sleeve. Michael felt something twist inside him. Fear, jealousy, guilt. That night, he confronted Ethan privately. She can't depend on you forever, Michael said, harsher than he meant to sound. Ethan stiffened. I never asked her to. Michael ran a hand through his hair. I'm trying to do what's best for her. So am I, Ethan replied quietly. The words hung heavy. Over the next few days, Lily grew quieter again. She sensed the tension. Children always do. Her words retreated, like a tide pulled back by the moon. Then, without warning, Ethan stopped coming. Not suspended this time. He chose to step away. No calls. No visits. No waves from the street. Michael found out from Noah's school. Ethan had requested a route change, across town. Michael stood at the window with Lily, watching an unfamiliar truck roll by. Lily waited. Nothing. Her shoulders sagged. Michael felt the weight of his decision pressed down hard. He had wanted to protect her. Instead, he had broken her heart. And somewhere across the city, Ethan sat alone in his apartment, staring at his hands, wondering if doing the right thing should hurt this much. Because sometimes love doesn't leave loudly. Sometimes it walks away quietly, believing it's the only way to keep someone else whole. The silence returned slowly, like a fog rolling back into a valley everyone thought had finally seen the sun. Lily didn't collapse all at once. She unraveled in pieces. First, she stopped humming. Then the drawings changed. No more orange figures. Only empty streets and windows without faces. Michael noticed everything. At dinner, she pushed food around her plate again. At night, she slept facing the door. In the mornings, she still went to the window, but now she stood farther back, as if getting too close might hurt. Michael told himself it was temporary. Children adapt. Children forget. But this wasn't forgetting. One afternoon, Lily's therapist sat across from Michael with her hands folded tightly. She's not regressing, she said carefully. She's grieving. The word hit harder than any diagnosis. That night, Michael sat alone in his office long after the house went quiet. He replayed every conversation, every look Lily had given Ethan, every time he'd felt that small, sharp sting of jealousy and pushed it away. He finally admitted the truth to himself. This wasn't about a school. This was about fear. Fear that Lily loved someone else in a way she had never loved him. Fear that her first real words hadn't been his name. Across town, Ethan struggled too. Noah asked about Lily every day. Did we do something wrong? Ethan shook his head every time. No, buddy. Sometimes grown-ups make hard choices. But late at night, Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone he refused to use. He told himself staying away was the right thing. Lily needed stability. A father who could give her everything. Ethan could give her presents. But presents didn't pay for schools or doctors or futures. Then the accident happened. It was raining again, the same heavy rain as weeks before. Michael was driving home from work when traffic stopped suddenly. Tires screamed. Metal crunched. The world lurched sideways. Michael's car spun once, then slammed into the barrier. When he woke up, the world was white and beeping. Hospital lights. The smell of antiseptic. Pain blooming through his chest. The nurse leaned over him. Mr. Hart, you've been in an accident. "Lily," he rasped. "She's safe," the nurse said quickly. "Your daughter is fine." Relief flooded him, followed immediately by terror, because Lily was alone. The call reached Ethan late that night. He stared at the hospital name on the screen, heart pounding. He answered before it finished ringing. "I'm calling about Lily Hart," the voice said. "Her father has been admitted. You're listed as an emergency contact." Ethan's breath caught. "Is she okay?" "She's quiet," the nurse replied gently. "She won't respond to anyone." Ethan didn't think. He grabbed his keys. When he arrived, Lily sat curled into a plastic chair, knees to her chest, eyes fixed on the floor. Doctor spoke softly. Toys lay untouched beside her. Ethan knelt in front of her. "Hey," he whispered. Her head snapped up. For a second, nothing happened. Then her lip trembled. She threw her arms around his neck and sobbed, soundless but violent. Ethan held her, rocking gently, murmuring nonsense words just to let her know he was there. A doctor approached quietly. "She hasn't reacted like this to anyone else." Ethan nodded, throat tight. She just needed someone familiar. Hours later, Michael regained consciousness fully. His ribs ached, his vision swam. But when he saw Ethan standing beside Lily's bed, he understood. No anger, no pride, only gratitude. "I'm sorry," Michael said hoarsely. Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to be." Michael swallowed. "I was wrong." The words were heavy, honest. Outside the room, Lily sat very still, holding Ethan's hand. A nurse knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, can you tell us how you're feeling?" Lily's fingers tightened. She looked at Ethan, then at her father through glass. Her chest rose. "Fell. Scared," she whispered. The room went still. Michael covered his face, tears slipping through his fingers. Not from pain, but from relief, from awe. Lily had spoken again. And this time it wasn't just because of comfort. It was because she trusted she was safe enough to feel. "Be honest for a moment. After everything that happened, could you forgive if you were in Michael's place? Type forgive if you could, or never if the pain would be too deep for you." Michael reached for Ethan's hand, gripping it tightly. "Please," he said, voice breaking. "Don't disappear again." Ethan looked down at Lily, then back at Michael. "I won't," he said quietly. Neither of them realized yet that Lily's healing had only just begun, and that the hardest, most beautiful step was still ahead. The hospital room slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Machines beeped softly. Rain tapped against the window like cautious fingers. Michael slept, sedated and exhausted. His face finally relaxed after days of tension. Lily sat in a chair beside the bed, her feet not touching the floor, Ethan's jacket wrapped around her shoulders like armor. She hadn't spoken again after that one word, but she hadn't retreated either. Ethan stayed through the night. No one asked him to leave. No one questioned why he belonged there. Nurses smiled at him like they understood something unspoken. In the early morning, Lily stirred. She slid off the chair and padded toward the window. Dawn painted the sky pale blue, soft and forgiving. Ethan joined her. "Hard night, huh?" She nodded. They stood together, quiet but steady. Later that day, Michael woke fully. He looked at Ethan standing near the bed and didn't feel that old twist of fear anymore. Only clarity. "I kept thinking money could protect her," Michael said slowly. "But all it did was build walls." Ethan listened. "You didn't just help her speak," Michael continued. "You helped her feel safe enough to try." Ethan swallowed. "She did the hard part." Michael shook his head. "So did you." The doctors were optimistic. Broken ribs, bruises. Time would heal the rest. Lily clung to her father's hand while he spoke with them, answering simple questions with nods, and once with a quiet, "Okay." Each word felt like a miracle no one dared rush. When they finally returned home, the house felt different. Still large, still quiet, but warmer somehow. Less hollow. Michael made another decision. He called the boarding school. "We won't be enrolling," he said firmly. Then he called Lily's therapist. Adjusted plans. Slowed everything down. That evening, Michael invited Ethan and Noah over again. This time not for dinner, but for something else. "I'd like you to be part of her life," Michael said plainly. Not as a visitor, not as a favor, as family. Ethan blinked. Michael, I don't want her world shrinking again, Michael interrupted. And I don't want my pride deciding her future. Lily stood between them, holding Noah's hand. She looked up at Ethan. Stay, she asked softly. Ethan felt his chest crack open. I'm not going anywhere, he said, voice thick. Days turned into weeks. Lily began speaking more, not constantly, not easily, but honestly. One word became two. Two became short sentences. Never rushed. Never forced. Sometimes she went quiet again, and that was okay. Ethan returned to his old route. Every morning, Lily waved from the window, not waiting desperately anymore, just happy. Michael stopped watching from behind. He stood beside her. One afternoon, Lily brought Michael a drawing. It showed 3 figures. One tall, one smaller, one in orange. Michael smiled. Who's this? She pointed. You. Ethan. Me. Simple. Complete. At school, Lily raised her hand for the first time. Her voice shook, but she spoke. Her classmates waited. Her teacher cried quietly at her desk. At home, Michael learned to listen more than he spoke. He learned that silence wasn't absence. It was language, too. One night, after Lily fell asleep, Michael and Ethan sat on the porch. The city hummed in the distance. I used to think strength was never needing help, Michael said. Now I think it's knowing when to ask for it. Ethan nodded. And knowing when to stay. The air felt lighter, like something heavy had finally been set down. If you believe love still wins, even after fear, mistakes, and silence, comment, Amen. Let's fill this space with hope, because someone reading this right now might need to see it. Months later, Lily stood on a small stage at her school. A microphone waited in front of her. Parents whispered. Teachers held their breath. Michael sat in the front row, hands shaking. Ethan stood at the back, hat in his hands. Lily stepped forward. She took a breath. My name is Lily, she said clearly. The room erupted in applause. Lily didn't flinch. She smiled. In that moment, Michael understood something deep in success, deeper than wealth. Healing wasn't about erasing pain. It was about making room for it, and choosing love anyway. And as Lily looked out at the crowd, her eyes finding her father, then Ethan, she knew something too. Her voice was hers, but she never found it alone. Applause faded, but the feeling didn't. Lily walked off the stage with steady steps, her heart racing. Not from fear this time, but from pride. Michael met her halfway, pulling her into a careful hug, mindful of nothing except her warmth in his arms. You were incredible, he whispered. She smiled, smaller now, a little shy again, but she didn't hide. Ethan stayed back, giving them space the way he always did. When Lily finally looked for him, their eyes met across the room. He lifted 2 fingers in a quiet salute. She giggled. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that day. It became real. There were mornings when Lily woke up silent again, her thoughts too heavy for sound. Michael learned not to panic. He learned to sit beside her, to wait. Ethan taught him that waiting wasn't failure. It was trust. Ethan's life shifted too. The city offered him a supervisory position after word spread about his conduct, his reliability, his refusal to take shortcuts. He turned it down. I like where I am, he said simply. Michael didn't argue. He finally understood that dignity wasn't tied to titles. Noah and Lily grew close in their own quiet way. Homework at the same table. Cartoons with shared glances and inside jokes that didn't need explaining. Noah learned patience. Lily learned courage. One evening, during a thunderstorm, the lights went out across the neighborhood. Lily froze, breath shallow. Thunder had always scared her. Loud sounds, sudden breaks in control. Michael reached for her hand. Before he could speak, Lily did. It's just noise, she said softly. Then, after a pause, I'm okay. Michael blinked back tears. Not because she was brave, but because she knew she was. Later that night, Lily sat on the porch with Ethan, watching rain soak the street. The garbage truck wouldn't run until morning. Do you like your job? She asked suddenly. Ethan smiled, surprised. Yeah, I do. Why? He thought for a moment. Because every day I get to help clean up what people throw away. Lily considered that. Like feelings. Ethan laughed quietly. Yeah, like feelings. She nodded, satisfied. Michael watched him through the window, a hand over his mouth, realizing something profound. Lily didn't just find her voice. She found a language for the world. And so did he. Months passed. Seasons turned. Lily grew taller, stronger. Her voice grew steadier, not loud, not constant, but sure. One afternoon, she came home from school holding a folded piece of paper. She placed it carefully on Michael's desk. "What's this?" he asked. She took a breath. "A story." Michael unfolded it slowly. It was about a girl who lived in a quiet house, about a man who worked with his hands, about how kindness didn't shout. It stayed. Michael finished reading with tears on his cheeks. "That's beautiful," he said. Lily smiled. "It's true." Outside, a garbage truck rumbled past, sunlight flashing off its side. Ethan waved as always, and Lily waved back, not because she needed him to save her anymore, but because some people don't leave your life once they help you find yourself. They simply walk beside you. The years didn't rush after that. They unfolded gently, the way healing always should. Lily turned 9, then 10. Her voice never became loud, but it became steady. She spoke when it mattered. She spoke when it was true. And sometimes she chose silence, not from fear, but from peace. Michael changed too. He stopped measuring his days by meetings and markets. He started measuring them by moments. Breakfast that ran late, walks that went nowhere, evenings spent listening instead of planning. One autumn afternoon, Michael found Ethan in the driveway, fixing a loose hinge on the side gate. The mansion loomed behind them, still impressive, but no longer intimidating. "You know," Michael said quietly, "I used to think success meant being untouchable." Ethan tightened the screw. "And now I think it means being present, even when it's uncomfortable." Ethan nodded. "That's the hard kind." They stood in companionable silence until Lily's voice drifted from the porch. "Dad." Michael turned. "Yes, sweetheart." "Come listen," she said. Inside, Lily sat at the piano. Her fingers hovered over the keys, trembling slightly. "I'm still learning," she warned. Michael sat. Ethan stood by the doorway. Noah leaned against the wall. Lily played. The notes weren't perfect. Some hesitated. Some landed softly, unsure of themselves. But the melody held. It moved forward. It didn't stop. When she finished, she didn't look up right away. No one spoke. Then Michael whispered, "That was beautiful." Lily smiled. "I was scared." "But you did it anyway," Ethan said. She nodded. "I had help." That night, after Lily went to bed, Michael sat alone in his office. Once a place of pressure, now a place of reflection. He opened a folder he hadn't touched in years. His will. He made changes. Not just names or numbers, but intentions. He set up a foundation in Lily's mother's name. Not for buildings. Not for awards. For people. Single parents. Overlooked workers. Children who needed patience more than fixing. The first board member he invited? Ethan Cole. Ethan tried to refuse. Michael didn't let him. "This isn't about money," Michael said. "It's about making sure what saved my daughter can reach someone else." Ethan agreed on one condition. "We stay human," he said. "No big speeches. No fancy words." Michael smiled. "Deal." On the foundation's opening day, Lily stood beside them, a small microphone in her hands. Her palms were sweaty, but her posture was steady. She looked out at the crowd, people from every walk of life, some in suits, some in uniforms, some tired, some hopeful. She took a breath. "When I was little," Lily said, "I didn't talk, not because I had nothing to say, but because the world felt too loud." The crowd leaned in. "Someone was kind to me without asking me to change," she continued. "He didn't hurry me. He didn't fix me. He just stayed." She looked at Ethan. "And because of that, I found my voice." Silence followed. then applause, slow at first, then overwhelming. Lily stepped back, heart racing but smiling. Later, as the sun dipped low and the crowd thinned, Lily walked over to Ethan and held his hand. "Do you know," she asked softly, "why I like garbage trucks?" Ethan chuckled. "Why is that?" "Because they take away what people don't want anymore," she said, "and make space for something new." Ethan's eyes burned. Michael watched him from a distance, understanding finally, fully. Wealth hadn't saved his daughter. Time hadn't saved her. Love had. And love had arrived wearing work boots and orange gloves. Before this story ends, if it moved you even a little, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for Lily, and for every child who's ever been misunderstood, and every soul who stayed kind when it would have been easier to walk away. One click can be your way of saying, "I felt this." That night, Lily fell asleep easily. Her window was open. The street was quiet. And somewhere in the city, a garbage truck rolled on, steady, unseen, essential, just like the kindness that changed everything.